Hey guys, welcome to the Phyto Power series where I share the top 30 phytochemicals around the world, their health benefits, how to use them in a little jam-packed sized video just for you. Funnily enough, this is a series I started way back in 2018, but I didn't think much of it. I made a lot of scripts. I thought it would be a really good series, but at the time I wasn't as confident as I am now on camera. I'm still pretty nervous. And I thought, as a break away from the Research 101 tips and advice video, why not share some kind of research in the form of science and education, something that you can benefit from away from the PhD advice and thesis writing, something a bit more, maybe slightly more entertaining, more useful in the cooking department, and looking at how we can benefit from these phytochemicals I'll be talking about in this series. So there's going to be 30, so hopefully I will do these series hopefully every week, depending on how well it goes. And today we're talking about allicin. Now, allicin is found in garlic. I'll be talking all about its benefits, how it comes around, what compounds are really useful for us in our body. But before that, I just have to remind those of you who are new, those of you who may not be new, is if you can subscribe, that'll be super amazing for me and the channel. Do click that post notification bell so you don't miss out on this series, and you can check out all the other episodes and videos that I'll be making, and I've made already, I think about 100 videos on the channel. So plenty for you to binge watch if you would like to do so. But in any case, let's get back to the topic at hand, which is allicin. So many of us are familiar with garlic. We use it in many types of dishes. We find it in takeouts or when we're eating at home. I love Italian food and I love kind of garlic bread and garlic pizza. And I thought, I've heard about the garlic kind of benefits, but didn't think about, in terms of the science and research behind it, what actually is causing the benefits that we can try and utilize. How good is it? What does it actually do? So I'm here to kind of share with that in a little bite-sized chunk for you to nibble on, pun intended, I think, and get into the actual crux as to how everything happens from a biochemical point of view. To start off with, inside garlic there is a compound called allicin. As you can see over here, here's the chemical structure, if I can find one. And when it's crushed or sliced or broken down, it gets converted into a compound known as allicin by an enzyme known as allinase. Now, allicin is what gives the characteristic smell, that odor, gives that kind of taste. It's because of this compound called allicin. However, the problem is that allicin is very unstable and only lasts in maybe kind of short bursts and for a finite amount of time before it breaks down into something known as diallyl compounds. Diallyl compounds. You can see it over here. I find it very difficult to pronounce, but I'll do my best. Especially diallyl disulfide and diallyl trisulfide. So these fancy names are what causes a lot of the beneficial activities. It's under the allicin family, but it's these more stable metabolites that actually give rise to the antibiotic effects and the cancer effects that I'll be going into. And that's a little breakdown of the biochemical degradation of certain compounds in garlic that lead to the beneficial phytochemicals, if you want to call it that, from garlic. So why don't we talk about what are these beneficial properties? We know now that it's from allin to allicin to dial compounds, disulfide, trisulfide, and many forms of these. But why are they beneficial? What do they actually do? Let's dive into them. For example, in the area of detoxification, so looking at our organ, the liver, these dial compounds help to increase the production of liver enzymes to help to remove kind of nasty heavy metals that we don't want in our body in high amounts. And sulfur hydride is one of the functional groups that are very key in helping to increase this kind of detoxification process. And these are compounds that come from garlic that are helping to detox our body. Now, there are many kind of harmful toxins and chemicals, but heavy metals is a very key one that works really well with the sulfur hydride groups to improve the production and increase the production of these liver enzymes. Again, any kind of research that I'm mentioning, I'll put articles in a link in the video description down below, so you can feel free to check out the methodology, the reasons behind this. But in a snapshot, these garlic dial compounds from garlic help in terms of liver detoxification. I mean, there's many toxins in our body that we want to get rid of. And it's quite nice to know that garlic can actually help to increase that detoxification process. Now, another one is actually blocking cancer progression. Now, I could go into leaps and bounds into how tumors progress, how they actually initiate the pro-inflammatory environments that we find ourselves in our body. But what dial compounds help in particular, before this stops shaking, is that there are certain nitrites and nitrates that get converted into a very harmful chemical known as nitrous amine. So we've got nitrites, nitrates. These can get converted into nitrous amines, which are actually very carcinogenic, meaning they're kind of cancer-causing agents. Funny enough, diol compounds actually help to block that production. So essentially, it's blocking the likelihood of cancers to form and tumors to form. So it has this kind of anti-cancer effects, believe it or not. So we've got liver detoxification already, and now we've got anti-cancer effect, which is quite interesting. And if you are further interested, nitrous amine is a very known carcinogen. Again, I'll put the links in the video description down below, so you can look into why nitrous amine is such a harmful chemical and why the lower the amounts we have of it, the better our body will feel. Now, funnily enough, the garlic that we find, we see them in oil form as well. When you go into certain restaurants, you also get garlic oil. You see garlic oil on a lot of foods. And garlic in oil form is actually quite volatile. I mentioned to you before about how allicin can be quite unstable. Now, believe it or not, these volatile oils also have antibiotic properties. And many studies and many researchers have looked into the antibiotic effect of these diol compounds and the volatile oils and the products and the molecules that they find in the oils, because a lot of them are looked at, even MRSA, even something known as antibiotic resistant modifying agent. So what this means is that some researchers are looking at how utilizing these volatile oils, the bacteria or the microorganisms that were resistant to antibiotics start to change, that their resistance sort of mutates, or it lowers, or it lessens, meaning that antibiotics can actually work back again. Now, these are from volatile oils found in garlic. And I'll put again a few research links down below about the components of the oils that are leading to antibiotic effects, where researchers are trying to isolate the key molecules. I'll put some of them over here so you can have a look. And these have been known to be antibacterial, some antimicrobial, but the key notion of being antibiotic is very, very interesting. And I've found quite a few papers and studies and insights, fields of looking at volatile oils from garlic to try and hit and kill very pathological bacteria. But to think that they have the ability to change resistance in microorganisms is quite fascinating, because some researchers are looking at it as a clinical output of how maybe they can give this as a therapy to try and change patients who may have a resistant infection, to see if they can curb the resistance to a point where new antibiotics can work to try and reduce that infection spreading. So interesting to know that garlic oil has that capability. Now, something I'm quite interested in terms of these diol compounds is its effect on cardiovascular disease. And there's kind of three ways it does this. Number one is looking at how to reduce platelet oxidation and platelet aggregation. The reason why is that when plaques are formed in blood vessels, this platelet aggregation happens in quite high volumes. And what these diol compounds do is help to reduce this ATP glucose platelet aggregation. And that's a fancy way of saying glucose-induced platelets buildup inside the blood vessel. Because we know the big link between diabetes and cardiovascular disease, and we know that how high glucose in the blood vessels contribute to all sorts of problems and damage to the endothelial cell wall, and as we just mentioned now, increase the production of platelet aggregation, and start to clog up the blood vessels. And that's not a great sign if you're thinking of trying to reduce atherosclerosis. So garlic oil has also these diol compounds that also been shown to reduce that platelet aggregation and that platelet oxidation. Believe it or not, probably due to this notion of being a very potent antioxidant. As we know that reducing oxidative stress is very key in reducing the inflammatory state inside blood vessel walls to prevent the pro-inflammatory environment that can lead to cardiovascular type disease. So that's very interesting to know that these diol compounds can do that. But another way, which is actually quite interesting, is there's a lot of sulfur, as you can see here, a lot of sulfur inside garlic oil. And the sulfur has actually been known to be a very potent activator of nitric oxide. And we know very much so that nitric oxide is a very, very key and very potent, by the way, probably one of the most potent vasodilators, meaning it can dilate the blood vessel to reduce excess blood pressure and reduce the likelihood of cardiac damage. And it's interesting to see that garlic has that high sulfur amount, so it can be a direct trigger to our body's own vasodilator. We sometimes take drugs to dilate our blood vessels, but we also have our own vasodilator, and it's nice to know that these dial compounds can actually help to increase the production of vasodilation, and that can naturally decrease our blood pressure. So those are some really interesting benefits of these dial compounds, and I just want to stress that there are many other components inside garlic, the vitamins and minerals, other key amino acids and proteins that also have been investigated. But it seems that these disulfide and trisulfide has been very prominent in the research space in terms of investigation. And again, I'll put some review papers down in the video description if you want to check out. But interesting to know of the benefits I've mentioned so far, just from these breakdown products inside garlic. So right, these benefits are all really good, but how do I actually get the most out of garlic? How can me as a person grab garlic from the supermarket, bring it to the kitchen, and how can I get the most out of it in terms of benefits, not just its taste? But like with anything, one of the best ways to get the health benefits from something is to try and have it raw, because we know that allicin is very unstable. So the more you do something to garlic, the more prolonged you might reduce the ability to get the most out of garlic, to get these dial compounds and to get them into your body. But if eating it raw is not your taste, and I don't blame you, eating garlic is quite a pungent smell, and trying to eat it raw, especially if you're at work, is going to be a bit of a problem. But the other alternative is to make sure you cut it or slice it and then leave it for a few minutes to let the allicin produce, to get the maximum amount of allin to allicin production, and then you're going to try to get the maximum amount of those dial compounds afterwards. So if you are looking to use garlic in the kitchen like we do for many recipes, when you do cut it or slice it, let it produce the allicin first, as much as you can, because you want to get that production first. But then once the allicin is formed, it will then break down quite quickly into the dial compounds. But if you don't allow that first conversion to happen, you won't be getting many of that dial compounds. So that's interesting to know. And I thought a few links as well in terms of the benefits of how to cook with garlic. But a few other things to bear in mind is to avoid microwaving garlic, because it renders all the goodness redundant. So especially for this type of phytochemical nutrients, microwaving this, there are many other things that you can microwave which should be fine. But reports have been showing that microwaving garlic can render the beneficial compounds mute. They can break down, they can become so volatile that they break down into further unuseful or not great compounds for the body. So just keep that in mind. Normally you probably will put into a frying pan or put it in the oven, and that might yield some benefits from the garlic. But also bear in mind that there is something known as black garlic, and there's a lot of reports about how good is that. It has less allicin components, it has a less allicin level, but it does have an increase in useful amino acids, phytonutrients, and also antioxidants. So depending what you're using garlic for, predominantly you're going to be using it for the taste. So if you are interested in black garlic, don't be fooled to think that because it's maybe more rare, it's going to have more allicin and more benefits. Probably not often the case. And again, I'll put some links down to help better illustrate this, but just keep that in mind when you are thinking of using garlic. So guys, that's a little bit of a crash course into some of the benefits of garlic for you in terms of the allicin family, and the allium family is what the kind of umbrella term is. I know this is for a lot of you now because many of you have subscribed recently. This is a new type of video for you to enjoy. If you did enjoy it, please do drop a like, drop a comment down below of what other benefits you want me to look at in terms of other fruits, vegetables, other phytonutrients, and I'll be more than happy to discuss them. But I would love your feedback because this is a new start of a new series, very different to the tips and advice video. So even follow me on Aamir.phd on Instagram if you want to have a quick chat, or if you've got some queries and questions, more than happy to discuss. But I do hope you enjoyed this video and the birth of this series again. It's been 3 years running, but I'm excited for it and I hope you are too. However, enough waffling. In any case, I shall see you in the next one. Take care.